Hey guys, this is Carrie, and in this video we're going to be making a project called Lots of Boxes. And the reason why it's called that, if we take a look at last year's version, is it just has a lot of boxes. And what we're going to see is that we've now built up a really powerful set of tools using lists and for each loops that's going to let us control hundreds of little boxes with just a few lines of JavaScript code. So let's get started. We're going to be working from scratch on this project, so we'll press Create, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and I'm going to call this Lots of Boxes. So since we're starting from scratch, I had a bit of an error there. Let me just go to my replit. I think this is because it's my second time, or fourth time, or fifth time shooting this video. So it shouldn't have caused that error on your screen. Let's see if I'm okay. All right, cool. So now everything is a fresh start for me, and everything is good. So your computer screen probably didn't do that. But now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clear out all the starter text. So I'm going to delete hello world. And I'm going to delete this JavaScript tag in green text. And I'm going to leave the one that says source of script.js because this file, script.js, needs to connect to my index.html file. So I'm going to open my page. And great, my page is looking empty. And I'm ready to start filling this with content. So we've got the title here, and I'm going to change the title to Lots of Boxes. Sick, that worked. Next up, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating some elements, HTML elements, using some shorthand called the Emmet shortcuts. And that's spelled E-M-M-E-T-T, I believe. And so these Emmet shortcuts are really awesome because what we're going to be creating is 900 tiny boxes, and I don't want to use copy and paste. But before we make the 900 tiny boxes, or hundreds of tiny boxes here, I don't know actually how many it's going to be, maybe it's like 1,000, thousands of tiny boxes here, we're going to make a big box that contains our whole app. So here's how that shortcut, Emmet, E-M-M-E-T-T, works. So here, instead of doing just a normal div like this, and you'll see that I have the green underline, what we're going to do is we're going to use a little bit of CSS to cheat. And I'm going to say make a div with a class of content. And the dot means the same thing that it means in CSS code. It stands for class. Now, because I've got this all highlighted or underlined with that turquoise line, if I press tab, it runs the Emmet shortcut. And it makes a div with a class of content. And that's much faster. Now, where these shortcuts really save us time is if we want to make hundreds or thousands of divs all at the same time. So to figure out how many tiny divs I need to make, I'm going to do a little bit of math. So I think I want to put about 30 tiny boxes on top. And then I want to have a height of like 30 boxes on the side. So that's going to be 30 by 30. I'm going to make 900 boxes. And I kind of gave that away earlier. So to make these 900 boxes, I'm going to type, using the Emmet shortcuts, div. And I want each of these boxes to have a class of box. Now, if I press tab here, it'll just make one. But I don't want to do that. So I'm going to delete that. And I'm going to do div with a class of box. And I'm going to do times. And that symbol is shift 8, 900. And you can see that as I type in the 900 there, it starts to preview what this text is going to look like. Press tab. And we just made 900 divs without any copying and pasting. Let's see what our page looks like with all of these divs on it. It looks like nothing still. And the reason why that is divs naturally take up no space. And since my divs have nothing inside of them, they're taking up no space. Also, they have no style, kind of like me. So these are like completely transparent. We need to give them some style and some content and some JavaScript in order to make them actually do stuff. So now we've got these 900 boxes. It's time to pop over to our style.css file. I'm going to delete this. And I'm going to say that we should start off by styling our boxes. So I'm going to take anything with a class of box. And that's referring to all 900 of these boxes. And this is the power of CSS and classes in HTML, is that we can quickly style anything with a class of box. I'm going to give them a background that's green. And I'm going to give them a fixed height, 40 pixels, just making up a number here, and a width to match. And that way they'll be square. So here we go. 900 boxes should appear on my screen. No! It looks like one long column. But this is actually just 900 boxes stacked on top of each other. And we just can't see the space because they're stacked so close to each other. So to stack these boxes a little bit better, I'm going to start to style my content box, which contains all of the tiny boxes. So to style the content box, ooh, wow, there. It took a lot of scrolling to get there. To style the content box, we're going to be using a tool called CSS Grid, and that will enable me basically to cut my website up into columns and rows like graph paper. And this is a really powerful tool, one of my favorite CSS tools for doing complex layouts. But I think this is a great case to kind of apply the basics of it, since CSS Grid sounds like the grid that we're going to be making. So let's go back to the CSS. And I'm going to say, take the thing with a class of content. The display of this is going to be inline grid. And now we have to set up our columns and rows. So to set up the columns and rows of the grid, we use a couple of similar tools called Grid Template Columns, GTC. And you can click the autocomplete there or press tab. And to set up the columns, I have to specify how large each of the columns should be. And I don't want to keep typing 40 pixels, 40 pixels, 40 pixels, because the column should be 40 pixels. I want to type here to just say that the columns should be, well, there are going to be 30 columns, and each of them should fit one box, 40 pixels. I'm also going to set up the rows, so that's a square, so 30 by 30. So for the rows, I'm going to do grid template rows, GTR, and I'm going to do another repeat there, 30 rows, 40 pixels in height. Let's see how our shape is looking. Awesome, now we've got a big blob in the middle. So again, these are our 900 little boxes, but it doesn't look like 900 little boxes because they're all touching. They're all stacked on top of each other. So we're going to add in a little bit of a grid gap, and this will put a gap between each of the columns and each of the rows. And I don't have to do repeat here. I just do 5 pixels. So here we go. Let's refresh our page. Now we've got an awesome 5 pixel gap in between each of our elements. All right, so style is looking pretty good here. I think we're ready to start coding our JavaScript. So to control all of these elements from our HTML file, just like normal, we have to get all of them. Now, I really don't want to get each of these things line by line like we normally do. So we're going to use a new tool that will let us get all of them. So get everything. And instead of using an ID, I'm going to use the class this time. Get everything with a class of box. So I'm going to say let boxes equal, go to the document, and here's the new tool that we're going to use. Instead of get element by ID like we usually do, we're going to use query selector, and there's a couple of similar ones. We want to get all of the ones that match, so we're going to click query selector all. And the pattern that we want to match is we want to match all of things with a class dot of box. And this is really similar to what we used with the Emmet shortcut to make the class of box, and also the CSS to style everything with a dot class of box. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use that new tool for each loops to go through this entire list of boxes and get everything that we need. But before we do that, I actually kind of want to see if we really got all the boxes. So I'm going to pop open the JavaScript console here. I'm going to do a little refresh. And I'm going to treat this kind of like a command line app. Since I defined that boxes variable, if I type in boxes, yeah, I've got a list. It's a special kind of list called a node list. We don't have to worry about that. We can see the little square parentheses. And we were able to get all 900 of our boxes. And they're all like just in here with a comma. And because these are a list with the square brackets, all of our list tools apply, like append, insert, remove, all that cool stuff that we've been working with. But we don't need to use that stuff right now. We're just going to be using our new tool for each loops. So use a for each loop to apply the same functionality to every item in the box, or in the list. So here's how that works. We take the list that we're applying everything to, in this case, the boxes list, and I use that new functionality that we've been talking about today, for each, and I set up my parentheses here. Now, in order to go through this item by item, I have to give a general description of what the item is. And I think it's always going to be like just a one-word shorthand description. I'm going to say for each, in this case, box. And you'll notice that I have the double parentheses here. They're serving different functions. This is saying take each box, and then this is setting up the whole parentheses. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say take each box, and then apply. This is something called an arrow function, this code block to each box. And this is so powerful because in just these 3 lines of code, we're going to be able to go through all 900 of these boxes and apply the same functionality to each of those boxes. So the functionality that I want to apply, and this is why we have this little code word here, is we're going to go through box by box by box. And whatever box we're on, we want to take that box and we want to add an event listener to it. The event listener that I want to add to it this time is going to be a new one. It's called mouse enter. And then we're going to run a function every time a mouse enters that box. So the reason why I'm using mouse enter is you can see that as I drag my mouse around the screen, I'm not clicking on these boxes. My mouse is entering that space, and then it does a thing. So the event this time is the mouse enters the little tile. Okay, now what's the functionality that I want to use? We're going to make it more complicated. But in kind of the simplest version, I want to basically just take that box, and I want to alter the style of it, so that the background is no longer green, but red. So basically, this should loop through that entire list of 900 boxes. It should take each box, and it should, for each box, add an event listener so that that box turns red when a mouse enters it, or when the mouse enters it. Let me get rid of my JavaScript console so we can see if this works. Oh my gosh, it's working! And you can see that all of these boxes are turning red as my mouse enters it. So the only thing that really remains in this project, you can try to spell your name. That's fun. Okay, it's hard to write in cursive on this. Maybe if I had more boxes, it would be better. But I leave that to you to figure out. I could zoom out maybe, and that would be better. I don't know. The only thing that really remains in this project is to make the styling more interesting. So to make the styling more interesting, what I'm going to do is instead of doing box.style.backgrounds, I'm going to create a new CSS class called active. And the way that active is going to work is active is going to be, when I drag my mouse over, it's going to turn that box to active. So here's what we're going to do. When something is active, I'm going to say that the background should be red. But to make things a little more interesting, there's a tool called transform. So I'm going to look up CSS transform. And we have a lot of, ooh, wow, this one, I don't know if this is the best one. We use the W3 schools. Let's see how this one looks. Oh, this looks complicated. I'm going to go with the W3 schools. We have a lot of different transformations that we can apply. So we can use all of these different transformations. So I'm going to use all of them. So I'm going to say when a box has been activated, when it's active, I would like to, and these are like geometry transformations, I would like to translate it. I'm going to make it go diagonal. So I'm going to translate it 700 pixels, or like no, 1,000 pixels in the x direction and 1,000 pixels in the y direction. All right, let's see how that looks. Oop. Oh, I didn't change my JavaScript code. Sorry. So I created this class, and now I need to use my JavaScript code to apply it. So what I want to do is, instead of making them have a red background, I want to say that when the mouse enters the box, take the box, go to the class list of that box. Class list has a capital L here, so you can click that. Make sure it's capital. And we want to add the active class. So let's see how that looks. So, it looks like all of my boxes are disappearing. And that's because they are all translating, but I can't really see them flying across the screen. So to see them fly across the screen, I'll go to the style.css, and I'll say that my boxes should have a property, so that when they change their properties, the transition time is something like 1 second. And this way, as they translate across the screen, I'll be able to see them moving. So let's see. Ooh, now I can see them like kind of all flying away as I put my cursor through. Awesome. So I'm going to make that a smaller change. I'm going to do like just 10 pixels by 10 pixels. And you can add in more transformations by putting a space. Let's see. Another fun one that I like to use is rotate. So maybe I'll do rotate. And for my angle, I'm going to do like something like, I don't know, 720 degrees. So now as I scroll through this, ooh, look at that. They all turn red. They translate a little bit, and they spin, which is kind of cool. I like that. Let's see what else we can do here. Let's also add one more transformation, and that's going to be the scale transformation. So I'll do just scale. And I think I can just do scale 1.1. And because it's bigger than 1, it should grow. Let's see. Yeah, so the boxes grow a little bit as they're spinning and moving. So one more JavaScript thing that I think could be interesting with this is maybe what we want them to do is we want the boxes to go back. In my original version, I didn't make the boxes go back. I just have them fall downwards using just a translation in only the y direction, but you can play around with all these things and make it look like how you want it to look. To make the boxes go back, if I want them to kind of return to their original configuration, I can go into my JavaScript, and I can say, after the boxes become active, I want to create a timeout, a small delay. And this is like set interval, but instead of repeating, it's just going to create a small amount of time. And at the end of that time, it's going to run this function. So I'm going to create a 1/4 second delay. And let's see what happens. What I want to do basically is after 1/4 second, instead of adding this class, I want to remove this class. And then I think what will happen is the boxes will lose these styles from the active CSS class, and they should go back to how they originally looked. Let's see how this looks. Cool, so definitely happening, but I noticed that my boxes never really reach completion. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to speed up my transition so that it matches. So I'm going to do a transition of 0.25 seconds. And that way it will match my timeout. So they'll do the full pattern and then revert back. And this is pretty cool looking to me. But I bet you guys can come up with some cooler stuff. Maybe if I zoom out and I have really tiny squares, it will look even cooler. I don't know. There's a lot to play around with here. So I hope you guys will enjoy controlling all 900 of these boxes in only 18 lines of CSS and 13 lines of JavaScript. That's pretty good. 13 lines of JavaScript to control 900 boxes. You guys can keep this or delete it, depending if you want the boxes to go back. And I hope you guys see the power of for each loops as you complete this project. Bye, guys.